Everyone. My name is Patrick Earle. I'm the Executive Director of the Diplomacy Training Programme, and we welcome everyone to today's webinar. We are on the lands of the Bidjigal people of the Eora Nation, and we pay our respects to the elders past and present, to all those Indigenous peoples who join us today also, and to acknowledge that the lands we're on were never ceded and that the struggle for self-determination here continues. And it's very relevant, I think, to the subject also of today's webinar. This is the second in a series of 3 webinars that were proposed to us by alumni of the Diplomacy Training Programme in Indonesia, who have recognised the growing concerns about the impacts on Indigenous peoples in West Papua, but also concerns that go beyond there to the impacts on climate in Indonesia and beyond of the National Food Estate Strategy, which will lead to massive deforestation. So we are pleased to host this webinar. We're grateful to our alumni for their work and their activity, and we're grateful to our speakers today. I will pass on to Ika Welyu, who is one of our alumni, who will be the moderator today. We have excellent speakers. We ask where possible that people leave their cameras on, particularly when we go to open discussion, so that we can see everybody, where it's safe for you to do so and where your bandwidth allows. But we also ask that you keep your microphones off, and then that we use the chat room for posting of links, the asking of questions. When we come to the end of the speeches, we will also have the opportunity to come round, and if people want to share, speak into the microphone, then and ask their questions or make their contributions directly, then that's great as well. But we're looking forward to a very good discussion, a very good learning on a really critically important issue at a very important time. So thank you, everyone.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this diplomacy training webinar about food estate in West Papua. Thank you for attending this forum. My apologies that I have some technical difficulty that's just appeared the logo of diplomatic training program in my Zoom. My name is Eko Waluyo, and I am the alumni diplomatic training program and currently program coordinator of Indonesian Solidarity Human Rights Organization based in Sydney. This is the second webinar in series of 3 exploring the food estate in Merauke, South Papua, Indonesia. The international community is more familiar with the term of West Papua. However, the Indonesian government divided the West Papua region into 6 provinces in 2022. Merauke is located in South Papua province and serves as the capital city. This webinar is being hosted by Diplomatic Training Program, and it is Indonesian Alumni Network and partner with Yayasan Pusaka Bentala Rakyat Pusaka or Pusaka. Pusaka is a non-profit organization that advocates for the right of indigenous people and the poor, focusing on human rights, environment protection, and recognition of custody and land rights. Today, we will focus on the threat of indigenous people rights, biodiversity, and environment. Before I introduce our 2 distinguished speakers, a few housekeeping rules. Please make sure that your microphone are on mute, but please turn on your camera on so we can have a more pleasant learning space. If you have any comments or questions, please share them on the chat function. We encourage a lively conversation, but we will ask you to be respectful to the speaker and to other participants in your comments. Following to presentation, each of the speaker to keep speech for 15 minutes and then some question and answer. During presentation, we will also share links to resources, the chat, and everyone who register for the webinar will get an email with all this link and a link to recording later on. The concern about the impact of plant deforestation in Merauke extend beyond Papua and Indonesia to impact on the climate, with the forests of Papua being described as the lung of Asia and Asia Amazon. The food estate seem incompatible with Indonesian commitment on climate change and carbon emission reduction. We will discuss all this today, and we are very fortunate to join by two speakers. Our first speaker is Dorteha Wabisar, is staff member at Pusaka Foundation, Western Papua. She worked on the community empowerment advocacy and national to international campaign to raise awareness of land grabbing cases. And the second speaker is Grant Rosoman. He is Senior Forest Solution Advisor for Greenpeace International. 3 decades experience supporting community forest management solution in Solomon Island, Vanuatu, Papua New Guinea, and Indonesia, with current focus on direct access financing for indigenous people and local communities for forest conservation. An expert on certification on the Forest Stewardship Council, or VSC, International Board, including Chair and Policy and Standard Committee, co-founder of the multi-stakeholder high carbon stock approach, HCSE, that put no deforestation commitment into practice, work on commodity markets, transformation and cooperation engagement, in particular wood products and palm oil. Without further ado, I would like to invite Dorothea Webisar to provide us the impact of the food estate project in Merauke on the indigenous people, such as displacing indigenous community, clearing forests without consent, and using military force to support dissent. Now the floor is yours, and your time is 15 minutes.
Hello everyone, I hope you can hear me clearly. Okay, my name is Dorothea Wabisar, but here in Indonesia or in Merauke or in Papua, people know me more as Deve. And as what Pak Eko has mentioned before, I work in Pusaka Bentala Rakyat. We advocate for indigenous people's rights and environmental justice. Especially for the community who live near plantations, so palm, timber, corn, and at the moment it's sugarcane in Merauke. I have a short presentation, and I know that my time is only 15 minutes. I think it's super hard because I don't know how to combine all of this information into 15 minutes. So let's just start. Disclaimer, I'm not good with creating a PowerPoint. So I wish as long as you can understand me, that's the important thing. Okay. Can you see my presentation? Yeah, okay. Oh, wait. I don't know what's... So, this is it. Okay, so 2 years ago when we found out about the NSP in Merauke, one of the economic expert in Indonesia called this specific national strategic project Super PSN. because this is the only national strategic project in Indonesia that has its own task force. Even the new capital city doesn't have their own task force for this specific for their project. So I put this presentation as Super NSP, or Morocco's National Strategic Project. Just a little bit background. I know if you were there for at the last meeting with Balaxmi and Mas Budi, maybe they already explained the timeline and others. Just a short background for everyone here, that at the end of 2023, the Ministry of Economy adding one more list to the list of national strategic project, which is Merauke. And at the end of 2023, December, the late President Jokowi, he said that he announced that we will do another forest state in Merauke. And it happened super fast. In the middle of 2024, in April, they started to do the land clearing, especially for the two private companies, the sugarcane companies. And until the end of 2024, December, they already cut down 11,000 hectares. And at this moment, by the data from Nusantara Atlas, on July 2025, they already cut down more than 19,000 hectares area. It's from only the three companies, the Murni Nusantara Mandiri, then Global Papua Abadi, the sugarcane groups, and also the Jonlin group for the new creation of rice fields. And these are the map that we created. Just to share a short story, it is super hard for us to get this data. Last year, when I was here trying to visit different kind of government official offices to ask if they have data, the concession data, that like which companies that will open their area in Merauke. And first, we only get the data for the sugarcane companies. It happened after I annoyed them so much. So like for the whole week, I was there, and then I think they felt tired looking at my face, waiting for the answer, because I sent the letter again and again until they gave us the 10 of the sugarcane, and then we can. My friends, they try to find the other area, and then we came up with this map. So I can feel, and I can see everyone's expression here that it is so hard to know what will happen on top of their customary land. And while I was here, at the end of the day, we worked together with the communities, who went to the legislative office, the Papuan People Assembly office, to asking for what happens on top of our customary land. And with all the information that we get, people decided to gather and then created a forum to find strategies, because when they announced this project, most of the people reminded with what happened by the previous project, the MIFE, the Merauke Integrated Food and Energy Estate Project. So together we try to find a strategy in asking and trying to defend the land at the same time. It happens since last June, July, and August. And because of the communities reminded with what happened through MIFE, these are the pictures in a village called Kwel, where the community decided to do their own protest. So the rejection movement coming from the grassroots level. Here they put a banner. One of the banners say that we can live without palm and sugarcane, but we cannot live without land and forest. And from this, at the local level, we move the demonstration to Merauke. There we went to the in front of the Papuan People Assembly, South Papuan People Assembly. And this is so hard because when the government divided the provinces into 6, now suddenly each of these provinces have their own people assembly, and it becomes super complicated. So we were there and asking for another information, but they say the same thing. Oh, we didn't know, everything is It's decided by the government at the central in Jakarta. So we don't know what happens at that time. And so we move the demonstration to Jakarta here on October 2024. There's some representative from the communities. You can see there are Mama Yasinta, maybe some of you know her name, Bapak Vincent, Kakak Aristo, and Kakak Simon. They were in front of the Ministry of Defense doing this demonstration because militarization is heavily involved in this project. That's where the intimidation started to happen. I remember that few intelligent came to our office trying to intimidate everyone. Two of them trying to enter the office, one of them just circling around our office. And specifically for Mama Jacinta, he got a lot of phone call asking her position everywhere she moved. And this has happened after this demonstration. And at the end of 2025, we sent an urgent appeal to the UN. And this March, the UN responded and sent a letter to one of the sugarcane companies, Global Papua Abadi. And they also sent a letter to Indonesian government. And Indonesian government already responded to the letters, and they said that yes, even though they know the concern by the 9th Special Rapporteur, but if you in Indonesia, there is a different understanding or concept towards indigenous people. So inside their response, they stated that Indonesia only acknowledging the term indigenous people by law. So, and in Merauke, there isn't any communities that recognized by Indonesian law. So it is still legal for the company to open their area. And at this moment as well, even though after the government respond to that letter, together with the movement, we keep trying to rescue this area. And at this moment, few representative of Merauke, so there are 4 people. They together with another victims of national strategic project in Indonesia. They are in court right now asking the Constitutional Court to reviewing the articles related with National Strategic Project in Indonesia Omnibus Law. So that maybe they can evaluate and delete the article regarding NSP. And it's now ongoing case. Yesterday, they just submit the summary of the case. Maybe in the next 2 or 3 weeks, we will wait for the decision by the judges in Constitutional Court. And even though even though all of this happens, we know that we heard people here or the companies, or when we saw TikToks of this military or the people who works in the company, they always think that it's okay. They use this peribahasa. It's in bahasa Indonesia called anjing bergonggong, kafila berlalu. Even let the dog barks, you can just still moving on, and they keep doing the land clearing. And if you see a movie by Gecko Project, say that it's titled "The Sky Split Over Papua," you will find a mother. She stated this in the movie. If the forest is like this, what can we do? In time, our culture will disappear. Where will birds make nests? We want to make loincloths, but it's hard to find tree for the rope. We want to make headrests from cassowary feather, but they are no longer in the forest. The fruit trees have been cleared, so where will the cassowary find food? I really think this is an important quote on the movie because it shows that how the people think the forest and land as a house, as their home. And when this land clearing happened, the land grabbing cases happen, it take down everything, not only their access to food, their daily activities, but all the things that related with their culture as well. And Melanesian is known that live very integrating with the the people. So we didn't see a line between the buildings, the walls, and the forest. It's one big like relationship between the indigenous communities and the forest. So a lot of human rights violations happen at the same time. We can see the violations towards the rights to land, territory, and resources. For example, what happened at the end of last month, September, the Minister of Agrarian and Spatial Planning, he gave another 474,000 hectares for people to use in Merauke. And one of his interesting argument, he said that we don't need special ceremony, or we don't need to ask permission from the community, because there isn't people live in this specific area. And it's just happened recently. You can see from the mindset that they didn't care about the people who own this land from generations to generations. The colonial mindset, the dominant verklaring, or the empty land concept, they still have it at this moment. So yeah, the communities lost the violence towards their land, territory, and resources. And the violence towards environment, when we found out about the 10 sugarcane companies, we found that it happens on top of the customary land of Yenan tribes. And here in Merauke, for more there are more than 250,000 people, but the indigenous community are only 20%. So we're always questioning the same thing. Where will these people go if they open this concession on top of their indigenous land? And also, we lost the violence toward the rights of woman and child. If you saw the movie, The Sky Splits Over Papua, the one that I showed you before, this is Mama Quipalo. She's the wife of Papa Vincent, the person I used for in the beginning of the slides. When the people who interview her ask what happened if the forest is gone, her answer, she said directly, "Where will my grandchildren go?" Something that's always came up from a woman's mouth. When you ask her about things that happen in the forest, she didn't think about herself. She thinks about the next generations. And she is currently with her husband facing the same threats from the other communities that used by the companies, and that creates a horizontal conflict in her own house at the moment. Yeah, this is what I said. So few days ago, there are few people from different clan come to Bapa Vincent house with arrows and what is it, parang? I forget the English word for it. But they came because he's the only person.
Machete.
Yeah, machete, thank you. Because he's the only one who's still fighting for his land. So yeah, lost access towards the violence towards the rights of land, territory, and resources, environments, rights of women and children. And I know we can do my timer. And I know if we can do more research about it, we can find hundreds of violations toward the human rights. I'm here in Morocco at the moment to do the human rights audit. Maybe at the end of the research, I can share the data for you. But I think that's all for me. Yeah, that's all.
Thank you, Dorothea, for very touching presentation and comprehensive explanation how the indigenous people in Papua have been affected from the food estate in Merauke. There is some very interesting because what he been doing in the local area, he just also approached some the local parliament, local government, and also in the national level include the constitutional code, which is to treat to submit the application regarding the article about national project strategic. So the code will make decision in few couple of weeks, I think. So this and also some point he mentioned about the rise of violence toward women and children from the company, where the company create horizontal conflict within the community itself. So this is some and there is very clear evidence as well as you Dorothea mentioned that the indigenous people has been marginalized or have been affected directly with the project of food estate. So so I would like to invite Grand Rosoman to jump in to see the Merauke food estate program is strongly linked to concern about the global warming because it is involved clearing massive area of forest in West Papua, which would release vast amount of stored carbon dioxide. This deforestation primarily for agriculture would contribute climate change, potentially doubling Indonesia carbon emission and the conflict with national climate goal like net zero emission by 2050. Grant, the floor is yours. Your time is 15 minutes. For those attending this discussion, please don't hesitate to add your comments or question to the chat. We'll monitor our, sorry. Yeah, we will monitor them and respond accordingly. Thank you, Grant.
Thank you, Echo. Hello, everyone. And you thank her, Dorothea. That's a very moving presentation on the really incredible impact that's having on the communities there. So I'll focus on a more on the broader picture and the environmental impacts, I guess. So starting particularly, the question, is this the largest planned deforestation project in the world? We believe it is. And the impacts are huge, as we'll see. So just looking at it from a perspective of the living space on the planet, and where we talk about planetary boundaries, this analysis has been done by the Stockholm Resilience Institute, and 5 out of the 7 boundaries are related to, that are being breached, are related to food systems. And so we've got 7 out of the 9 boundaries being breached, and 5 of them are related to food systems. So this diagram, it's just a helpful way to try and to think about the impact that industrial agriculture, such as the food estates, is having, and the context that this expansion is in the context of climate change, in the context of our resource use, and so forth. Oops. Now, how do I get? Oops. Sorry, I think I went too far there. I'm just waiting to come back. And yeah, secondly, just in terms of the food estate, to put the context of food, which is the justification really that's being used for this these development of these food estates, and some of the way that it's being used is coming from this pressure to say that we're post-COVID anyway, there was going to be a disruption to food supply chains. Climate change itself is impacting on food production systems. So it creates a convenient rationale for the government and players to use the fear of food crisis and climate change impacts and reducing import dependency to have the rationale for the food estate. So that sort of narrative of the food crisis as the basis really for this massive expansion. Sorry, I don't seem to be getting the slides moving very well. Quite sure how to do that. Sorry, I can't see doing. Oh, no, I've jumped about 5. Yeah, sorry. It seems very slow and then it moves. anyway, yeah, then the food crisis narrative is used, but in fact there is no food crisis, and even if the basis, if you look at it, self-sufficiency, it is even marginal given the failures of the food estates in the past. And if you look at it from a food security or a food sovereignty point of view, it's not meeting the needs of the people of Indonesia, let alone in particular the people of Papua, where it's severely compromising their food needs. Sorry, I can't seem to move the slides. I don't know what's happening here. I don't know why they're not moving. Yeah.
I think if you hover down to the bottom left there, Grant, it might come up.
Is that one there? Oh, I see, maybe here, right? Right, yeah, sorry, thank you for that. Got a little bit of tech advice on the go. Thank you very much. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, moving on. Yeah, so this, just to go backwards a little bit on the history of food estates, there's been many in the past, starting from the 90s, and of course the massive failure of the mega rice project in central Kalimantan, 1 million hectares, and then on for food estate areas in a lot of other parts of Indonesia as well. These are just a few examples, and each presidency seems to want to repeat the failures of the past, with President Suharto with the 1 million hectares in central Kalimantan, SPA, and Joko Widodo and with the MIFI project, and others in Kalimantan and Sumatra and so forth. So the lessons of the past do not seem to be learnt, such as what happened here in the Mega Rice project, where, yeah, the draining, the development of 1.4 million hectares of peatland, and the massive fires and the carbon emissions that have come from this, and it's still a massive degraded area and a fire risk, even though there's been a number of attempts to rehabilitate it. And we have to remember that there are some of the conversion in Merauke area is peatland areas as well. It's some of it's shallower peat, but it is peat as well. So the emissions will be massive from these areas also. Just to recap where the locations of all the food estate are in Indonesia. So they're spread. Of course, the biggest one is in Merauke, which is the focus for today. And just looking at the total area at the moment, and the area of interest, there's lots of different figures from different presentations that have been made by the government, but we're talking millions of hectares here. And this, so some of the detail here for central Kalimantan, Papua, South Sumatra, and North Sumatra. So 1.5 million hectares by this analysis from Madani. Looking at Merauke, and this will sort of build on the map that Dorothea was showing as well, just to show the forest area that there is there, and the overlap of the concessions and the food estates on those forest areas. And so the potential forest cover loss, which we estimate to be between 2.6 million and 4.2 million hectares for this South Papua province alone. So massive potential deforestation losses. And this is the current plans, the different clusters that they have. And I can show you some recent data from these different sites from number 1, 2, and 3. So the first one, the Wanam area, where there is, it's mainly based around this road development, the central road that they're putting through, but 9,800 hectares there being cleared in the last year there. So that's up to September this year. So it's really fully underway there. The second area, the Global Papua Abadi, even bigger, 17,000 hectares there. So a lot of clearance going on here for sugarcane in the central area there. And this is what it looks like. This was a photo taken just last month. So it's massive, the clearance, nothing left. The third area here in Murni Nusantara Mandiri, it's a little bit less, but 5,000 hectares, but underway also for sugar. So you can see there's no doubt the clearance is happening at pace, and this is why we would say this is the biggest deforestation project in the planet right now that's going on. And the impacts are huge for all of us, in fact, for the climate, for the biodiversity, in particular for the people who live there and their livelihoods rely on these lands and forests. So just looking at the climate impacts, we know that agriculture, forestry, and other land use is a big portion, up to a quarter of the emissions, and it's expected to grow by 58% from agriculture by 2040. So if we're looking at the food estates, they're a climate bomb. There's no other way to look at them from a climate perspective. We're looking at massive emissions from the deforestation and from the peatland conversion, hundreds of millions of tons of carbon. So instead of reducing emissions in line with the Paris Accord, Indonesian greenhouse gas emissions are going to increase substantially, in total contradiction to the commitment that was made to the Paris Accord, which was made by SBE, of a 29% unconditional reduction by 2030. There's no way with this kind of development that this is going to be able to happen. If we look at laws and regulations, there's a number of laws that are being either manipulated or ignored or breached, or new laws are being created to facilitate the national strategic projects. So I won't go into the detail here, but there's a whole level of detail here in the way the laws are being dealt with. Who's behind the food estates? Well, it's government, including the military. It's a mixture of these company oligarchies together with the company, and including this company PT Agro Industri Nasional, Agronas as it's known, with a direct link with President Prabowo is directly linked, and this company is one of the companies on the ground doing the food estate development. Other private companies include the John Lynn Group, and there are some international links that we're still investigating, including to Australia with sugarcane. So there's a massive undertaking with a mixture of government and private companies. A really concerning aspect, I think, of the food estate development is the militarization. So where the military are directly involved in developments and a massive military presence that's intimidating and causing a lot of fear with the community, which is the intended purpose. So here's a photo that was shared on social media by this military post themselves of them planting corn at a village in South Papua. It's a transmigrant village, this one. So what's the local community and civil society response been? I think Dorothea gave some examples there of the work that Pusaka has been doing, and we worked together with Pusaka on a number of those cases. And one that we have worked on was the IU case, which some of you may have heard about, and in terms of going to as far as the Supreme Court, where unfortunately they did lose, but the purpose of the case was really to raise the issue of what was happening in Papua, and to get that on a national stage with a national audience, and it was huge. The All Eyes on Papua hashtag was viral and really raised a lot of awareness of Indonesians around what was going on in Papua. We have done reports, Greenpeace has anyway, such as Feeding the Climate Crisis report that we did 2 years ago, and there's been a lot of other research and reports and exposing what's happening by other NGOs, and of course the UN Rapporteur report as well. So what's the solutions and recommendations from what we see? Firstly, fundamentally, respect Indigenous people's rights. The process has not been done there at all in terms of free, prior and informed consent with the local communities. Stop the criminalization of communities and including turning communities on themselves, which is a classic tool that is being used. And from our perspective, we need to see support and financing coming to these Indigenous communities to protect their forests. I mean, these forests are needed for the climate, for biodiversity, for the people, for the planet, and they shouldn't be cleared. And those those of us in the rest of the world need to support the Indigenous communities in Papua to do that. They cannot do it on their own. Food, there's no food crisis. We need food sovereignty and to support local food production. I mean, this is the irony that the food estates are destroying the food security of the local communities, particularly sago, which actually could be a really good crop for further expansion of processing. And we are doing that with communities in other parts of Papua and marketing it. And it is a major source of food for food security. Agroforestry, for example, as well, and being able to keep the diverse diets for community health, because this is one of the problems with these industrial expansion of monocultures. All the diverse diets of local communities is lost, and they end up living off a very simple diet and have a lot of health issues as a result. Stop using food for energy. I mean, it's a misnomer because a lot of the sugar is going to be used for energy, not for food. So there's, these kind of, it's part of the narrative. They say it's food, but it's not, it's for energy. And the real crisis is actually industrial agriculture expansion, as is happening here, land grabbing, trashing the rights of local communities and their livelihoods, destroying forests and our climate. And finally, the Ministry of Defence should play no role in agriculture policy and its implementation. The involvement of military on land just leads to fear and coercion, and is not how things should be done. Thank you.
Thank you, Grant. It was very educative and informative presentation, and how the impact of the food estate in West Papua can cause some significant deforestation and also the global warming as well. They have some contribution in the global warming. I think there are some point in we should underline here that the food estate is part of kind of military station in the food estate. There's kind of military deployment in the food estate project as well. And also participation in the food estate is from the Indonesian government, that also the Indonesian company as well, but it's quite possible there is some international company involved with this project. There's also, we need to stop to criminalize the community from the existence of food estate in Merauke, support the indigenous people from the international community and national community as well. So this is some comment I can read from the chat. Please send your question to the chat and we can read one by one. So this is Jenny. I just would like to read her comment regarding the number of international displaced people remain around 100,000 people, I think. And there's some question from Wesis Laos Patubun. Sorry to misspell your name. The question is for Dorothea. Some time ago, I just read the question. Some time ago, several individual attacked Papa Vincent Koipalu and his family. How do we mitigate such horizontal conflict? And how does the Pusaka Foundation mitigate the risk in advocacy, particularly the safety of Mama Yacinta Moyuwen and other mainland Anim in Merauke? How to use indigenous knowledge for advocacy in the PSN project strategic national case in Merauke, and the question from Craig Polgren to Grant. a question about the effect of deforestation in terms of salination of the land once the tree roots are disrupted. This land around Merauke and inland for more than 100 kilometers is so flat that salt water tide comes in every day. Salt under the surface will rise when the tree roots are removed. I think today, this is just discussion, it's question from the Craig Polkrim. I think maybe Doretta can answer the first question, please.
Yes. About what happened with Papa Vincent, it happened recently, but the first attempt was in last December. Similar but from different clan. And when we look at the profile of the people who came, they are the one who already sell their land, and some of them even got like a scholarship to involve in to join the military school or something. And after what happened, so it is very important to work with friends from the local in Merauke as well. So we work together with LBH, but also other organizations. And so far, every time we heard this kind of news, we will directly went to his village and his house. We were asking him for some option, but he has his personal choice and choose to stay there. So so for so many times, we went directly to the house and share a lot of information regarding his rights, but also what can he do at this when these things happen again. Not only using like the national instrument, but also things that you have in the village. If and talk with the neighbors if something happens. If you see the people come, maybe the first thing that people need to know is how to share what happened directly to others, to everyone in the village, and then how to share it. And 2 days ago, our lawyer with also Greenpeace went to his house and doing another assessment on strategies like what can Baba Vincent do or how to evacuate himself, because we understand the situation that even though we report the case to the police, it feels like they are taking care of the conflict, like they let it be there, the conflict still in the community. So other than doing the procedure that the government has, like bringing this case to the police, we also support Baba Vincent with capacity building, and we also do the same thing with Mama Jacinta, not only the representative that in Merauke, but also everyone in villages. So we went to Wanam and we went to uh Jacob all the time, working closely with our field staff, but also with people from LBH. And I think the most important thing is the communication, because sometimes if you want to do something big at the national level, people in villages, they have to know what will happen first, because the intimidation coming directly to the people in village, not to the people at the national level. So we try to have a clear communication between us. So what will whatever the things that we want to do, everyone will know about it. And because I think PSN is such a sensitive issue at the moment, especially with the militarization, even us at the national level, some of the organizations call us the organization that always like they call it like we're like standing near a cliff, because how sensitive this issue is. But I personally believe that people on the ground, they are facing a lot more worst. That's why I'm taking my own role just to do the campaign and always do advocacy to help them pressing the government to evaluate this project. and how to use the indigenous knowledge for advocacy in the present case. We work also for the campaign West Papua is not an empty land, that there are not only people inside the communities, but also cultures, by different kind of biodiversity, the intellectual property of the communities. And I saw a lot of research and documentation regarding is to prove that the forests have something in it, the land have something in it, there are people in it. So I think that's one of the way, other than asking directly or involving directly with the government, but also an international mechanism like the UN and others. I hope I can answer Kaka Wen's question. And yeah.
Thank you, Dorothea. That was very good answer. And I think, Grant, can you respond with Craig question? And then I would like to add another question from Craig, same person as well. Why is this project under control different department, Safri Samsudin, and not from the agriculture department? Thank you, Grant.
Yeah, thanks. To Craig's question about the salination, Greg, was it about the salination, right? Yeah. I mean, I don't know about that, but that I would believe that would be true. I mean, my concern too is we're in the process of, with climate change, the sea level rise as well. So these low-lying areas they're going to suffer inundation from that and salination from that also. And with the land development, particularly if you've got any peat type soils, there'll be subsidence. That's what happens with the conversion and the drainage of those areas, and so that will also cause inundation and the influx of salt water. So yeah, I agree, that would be a major concern. And I think this just points to the lack of environmental assessments that were actually done before the before the sites were selected. They weren't done at all. In fact, they're still doing them now after they've already started. So it's kind of a crazy situation where they've rushed in without doing any proper assessments of the viability of these estates and the viability of even agriculture on some of these areas. So they're flying blind with this, and it does make us wonder what really the objective is sometimes for these clearances, whether it's for the timber or something else. Yeah, Ika, what the second question? Sorry, if you can repeat.
Yes, the second question is regarding why there is a fruit project under different minister and not by under the agriculture minister.
Yeah, I really can't really answer that, but in terms of the workings of the Indonesian government, maybe there's other people here who can answer that better than me. So I probably wouldn't attempt to answer that one. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg, for responding the question. I think maybe Dorothea would like to answer regarding the question from Greg, why the food project under the different department or different minister, not by the agriculture minister. And another question, maybe similar this one, from Elizabeth Bio. Is there a greater presence of military in the village in food estates area? Do they have roles in civil administration, such as in school? Would you like to respond, Dorothea?
Yes, for the first question, the control of defense, not agriculture. At first, we were questioning the same thing because we don't know why, for example, like what happened at the end of the September as well, similar. They gave the Ministry of Agrarian and Special Planning gave the 400,000 to the Ministry of Defense. And last year, the Ministry of Environment also gave some amount of area for the Ministry of Defense. They said it's for the infrastructure in guarding the food estate project. I think it's something related with oligarchy, the relationship between Prabowo before he became the president, he was the Ministry of Defense, and this has happened when he's still in the Ministry of Defense, and but it is not. I don't think I have expertise in details to answer the question, but I know there are researchers related with the militarization and food estates. I know we have it in Bahasa Indonesia, but not in English. But I'll share the link anyway later to everyone who wants to read the report regarding that. And about the military presence, yes, in Wanam, they sent more and more troops, and maybe not directly in schools, but they involve as a farmer, and this create conflicts between the existing farmer because the military who work on the farm, they didn't know how to operate the tools, so they destroy the existing rice fields, and it creates conflict between them. But yeah, they're the one who now also involved in managing the not only the rice fields, but also to plant the sugarcane. And also, I just saw a news in Merauke that they also helping to plant some corn as well. But yeah, they're become a farmer and while don't know how to operate the tools. Yeah. And also stories from what happened in Wogikal and Uliuli. It's so sad because even in one village that only maybe have 20 houses or less than 20 houses, they will have 4 to 5 military posts between it, and there are military identified and unidentified military who works every day with the weapons, I think, to intimidate the community so that they didn't protest.
Thank you. Thank you for great explanation about the real situation on the ground, how's the military presence in Papua involved with the food estate. And here's some comment and maybe some question regarding IDP, internal displaced people. Maybe you can give some explanation about the internal displaced people in the context of conflict in Papua, just briefly, and also in context of the food estate. Maybe there is some kind of internal displaced people as a result of the human rights abuse during development of the food estate in Papua. And there is another question from Jeffrey Okai. And the question to Grant, if the government and transnational corporation continue to disrespect the right of indigenous people, which obviously in the case, what action would you recommend to address the issue? This is the question from Jeffrey Okai to Grant. So first, maybe Dorothea, regarding the EDP, maybe you could add some information.
I know that the numbers is growing to more than 70,000. And it's spread not only in the highland but also in the western part and also in the north. But because I don't work closely with the issues of IDP, I can't say much because I'm afraid I will share the wrong information to you about the issues.
Okay, thank you. How's your comment, Grant, regarding the previous question?
Yeah, thanks, Eko. Yeah, and thanks, Jeffrey, for the question. I think it's a good point. You know, what can we do? It is difficult because these companies are difficult to reach and they're well connected, and certainly the militarization makes it more complicated. But certainly, you know, from our perspective and from many NGOs, we intend to bring what is happening in Merauke and in South Papua to international audiences to expose what's happening, including at the COP 30 in Brazil. So we gather documentation. In fact, in the next few weeks, we will be putting out another briefing report on the situation there. So that's one of the roles we play to try and get that out. And so the idea would be to keep the pressure on the Indonesian government and the companies involved to change course and to halt what they're doing. It is a very difficult situation. I mean, I think we are looking for any connections to other countries that we may be able to use to apply some pressure, and we are finding some connections to Australia, but it is quite difficult to really do a lot, seemingly, but we will keep fighting and exposing as best as we can. Thank you.
Thank you, Grant. And you mentioned about the COP30 in Brazil that you would like to address this issue. And for the ordinary community in Australia and everywhere, how the Greenpeace International with the ordinary people can participate to campaign on this issue, like petitions kind of stuff?
Yeah, I think that, I mean, we don't tend to do many petitions, but there are online platforms that do petitions. So that's one way to work. I mean, I think we want to use the powerful stories that come from the people themselves. So to really amplify the voice of the people from Papua about the impact that's happening on them and on their lands. We believe that's the most powerful thing, and the biggest impact, in fact, is that. And so that would be what we would like to do to bring that in, particularly at COP30 in Belém, which is, it's a forest COP. It's in Brazil. There will be a separate COP just for Indigenous people, and so there will be Papuan representatives there at that COP and in COP30, and they will be telling the story of what's happening in Papua. So we are hoping that will reach the international audience, and in solidarity, in fact, with other Indigenous people, because Indigenous people all over the world are in the same struggle. So there is a lot of common ground with other Indigenous folks from other tropical regions, and they will be meeting and combining forces in Belém at COP30. Thank you.
As you mentioned about the COP in Brazil, Patrick raised the issue, but I would like to ask if there are three plans to bring this issue to COP30 in Brazil. Is this possible to do so?
Yeah, we have a declaration that's come from, it's called the Sira Declaration that came from Indigenous youth in Papua, and also from Congo and from the Amazon. And we will be, the Indigenous people themselves will be presenting that to the COP and to the leaders at COP. And that has all of these issues in relation to rights, to land, to militarization and everything. This was done by the Indigenous representatives, youth representatives, a few weeks ago themselves. So we will carry that to COP and help them have their voice heard there.
Thank you, Grant. It's fantastic. Yes. Please, everyone, just follow the chat, and there's some information about what Grant said, and just click the website Greenpeace International and also Pusaka. It's very interesting to follow up to combine internationally and nationally in Indonesia as well. So this is Luke Chamberlain from Environmental Justice. I think they said that thank you both of your sharpening presentation. I only wish you were presenting before the UN. Beyond the existing utter devastation of this project, wouldn't it also provide further access to industrial infrastructure and capital to cut incursion for the island and destroy ever much more of the West Papua precious frontier ecosystem and forests? And displace ever more indigenous community from their land. For example, like it's only tip of iceberg of the what is to come, and another reason why needs an international campaign or solidarity with you all to stop it. Maybe first maybe Dorothea first can give some comment, and later on Grant can respond as well.
Hi, Luke. Yeah, yeah. We're all Luke is also trying to help with the issues. We're trying to discuss how can we spreading the issues abroad. Yeah. I think based on the Merauke Solidarity, what we want is to ask the government to evaluate the project and stop it immediately. And yeah, right now, adding to what Grant has mentioned about the online petitions, before the judges say their decision for the Garam court case, we will bring these petition as one of the evidence for the judges. So if we can share to get more support, it would be very helpful for us because we're trying to influence the decision of the judges. And if you want to write an amicus, we would be very grateful to write an amicus for the court. I can share the info where you can send it, or you can send a letter to my organization and we can print it and bring it to the constitutional court postal, so that we can influence the judge's decision together. Yeah, maybe that's all my response.
Thank you, Dorothea. And I would like to keep Grant would like to add some more comment.
I don't have much to add, really. I think I explained before, like we will continue to campaign on this issue internationally together with a coalition of other NGOs and try to have as much influence as possible to bring the story of what's happening in Papua to the world and to elsewhere in Indonesia, in fact. So that's what we would like to do. I mean, we'd love to see how, we could get the story more into Australia, I think. Australia is a close neighbour and I think would be very interested. So I think, hopefully we can reach Australian audiences as well, given the close relationship there.
Thank you, Grant. I think these are just a comment from Galuh, from Ajar, the organization, that the term of the militarization in Indonesia is not only in context of the food estate, but also in the program of the president we call free food, free lunch, something like that in school, with the also controlled by the militarization. So this is just she would like to add about the situation, the current situation in Indonesia right now. And if there is any question, I think. Sorry, I just. And this is maybe the last question I just want to read. Would you agree that Pacific Island Forum recently filed against the spot proper scrutiny of West Papua human rights as well as environmental destruction? Maybe our Grant and Dorothea would like to comment about this one. Please, Dorothea first.
Yeah, I think I focus more on what happens inside. I don't know what happens outside. So I don't know. I think if I shared this news more to the people in Europe, not much on the Pacific side. So I don't even know if the PIF know about the case. So I very super agree with everyone who's think that we should also trying to share this case not only in Australia but other areas as well, maybe to my Melanesian countries as well. Just to share to build the emotional connection. I think that's the hardest thing. People don't think it's important if until it happens in front of their house. So I don't know how to answer the question.
Thank you. Grant, you would like to add?
Yeah, no, thank you, Kia ora, Catherine, for the question. And yes, indeed, the Pacific Island Forum did fail this time. I mean, there are friends of Papua on the forum, with Vanuatu in particular. So it has been a place where there has been some support, but this time, no. It's very disappointing. So when we've got such a major human rights issue happening in the region and it can't be raised there, so a shame on that forum for not doing that.
Thank you for the two speakers. It's very important issue that we raise in this second webinar. And before that, I just mentioned here about about the comment from the Patrick. Indonesia is acceding to the OECD and will have to then accept, promote the administrator and OECD guidelines on response business conduct, which has provision and human rights and environment, indigenous people right, and FPEC. Just follow all the on the chat. The website is very valuable information, and then keep eye on the Greenpeace International website. They will campaign international issue about food estate in West Papua, and also the website Pusaka. So thank you very much for two excellent speaker. This very give us some important education and information about the serious issue about food estate in West Papua. So I would like to give the time to Patrick, Director Diplomatic Training Program. Thank you.
Thank you to Kaya, I think.
Oh, Kaya.
Thank
No
you.
problem. Thank you so much, Echo. Thank you so much, Dorothea and Grant. That was incredibly inspiring and informative, and definitely we'll be keeping our eye on those issues coming up. We have the next webinar of this series scheduled for the 13th of November, so we'll be sending out communications for that shortly, as well as the webinar links and the webinar recordings and slides for today's webinar. Also, we have our Human Rights Defender Guideline webinar series kicking off next week on the 23rd of October. So if that's of any interest to you, please join us there. We also have a webinar coming up with the Australian National Contact Point focused on the